I've traveled many places doing music and talking to people about different things around the arts industry. And one thing that I know for sure is that Brisbane has the best of the best in the arts industry here. We just don't get the credit for it, and so a lot of us don't believe it.
We would like to acknowledge that we are on stolen Yuggera and Turrbal lands, and as settlers of colour, we reflect upon the damaging legacy of colonisation. Always was, always will be.
So, name is Sachém. I create art, music, hip hop, spoken word poetry, written poetry. I come from, mum's side is on Minjarrabah, North Stradbroke Island, Noonuccal Noogie tribe. So Noonuccal is Minjarrabah, which is North Stradbroke Island, and Noogie is the Moreton Island, which is just north of there. Yeah, and my dad's family, I also do come from Tampa, Florida, US. Shout out 813. Yeah, so that's me.
Nice. Now, Sachém, is there a story behind the name Sachém?
There's a bit of a story, yes.
Right.
So, Mum watched Last of the Mohicans. I'm
Okay.
not sure if you've seen.
I can't recall. No.
But it's a movie about the Native Americans and the settlement that happened there 400 odd years ago, I think. And there's one scene where this old dude, and Mum picked his name up, and it was Sachém. But the way they pronounced it in the movie was Sachém.
Huh.
So it's like a Hollywood movie depicting Native American culture. And so,
With the fairly white lens? Like that
yeah,
kind of
fairly
thing?
white lens, pronunciations, all of it. Yeah, and so she called me Sachém. And then I took that name on, and I was about 18 when I went back over on the solo trip and found out that when I went back to where the name is from, found out that it's actually pronounced Sachém. So then I wanted to do, because I felt like it was just the right thing to do, to change my name based on how the Indigenous people said it over there, because like I'm so strong on my roots here and get annoyed when people say things wrong. But I don't get annoyed when people say things wrong, but when there's an ignorance behind it and you know that there's the proper way of saying it, and you're like, oh, I'm just going to say it this way. So I just kind of chose to honor that and just tell people, no, it's Sachém. And so that's what it's been for the past 5-6 years now. Yeah. Still still spelt the same way phonetically.
Okay.
Just different, yeah.
Right, with the accent on
With the accent on the top, yeah.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
What is some of your childhood memories like growing up on a relatively small island that is...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I first went to my school. I started my schooling in Adelaide.
Oh, right.
And yeah, that was kind of the foundation for me, especially with sport and growing up in that kind of community. But then, moving to Minjarrabah when I was like 11 or something. I can't remember exactly how old. But moved back and was with my cousins and my nan, living in a 3-bedroom house with my family, 5 of us, and my grandma and grandpa. And it was the most fun time going to school. Didn't have to wear shoes to school. Instead of going to from big lunch and having the last period of school, at big lunch we'd go and do surfing lessons every Friday.
Right.
So that was a part of our school curriculum. Get into trouble with my cousins all the time. Me and Justin, we would just run amok all the time, talking about the craziest stuff.
Yeah.
And then I ended up getting a scholarship to go to Jimblah College, on the mainland, and met my mates, and the rest is history. Got into a lot of mischief. Did a lot of good things too. was able to. I mean, high school I lived with 4 or 5 different families, doing
Okay.
homestay situation,
Right.
billet family
Right.
type deal.
Because you're on the move between Jimblah and mainland?
Well, yeah, like it was just too difficult going from high school. So it'd be like wake up at like 5 or 4 a.m. and get the boat and then catch a bus and then catch another bus and another bus just to get to school,
Yeah.
or stay with the family.
Right.
That a kid went to school anyway and is right there. So I was staying with other families, and most of the time, like at that point in my life, I was like, ever since a young boy, I was training like every day, doing sport. And then especially when I got to high school, it got a little bit more elite, representing state teams in Australia.
Which kind of sports?
AFL and basketball.
Right.
So went and travelled to the US a few times playing basketball, and represented Queensland AFL for a bunch of times as well. Was in the Indigenous Australian All-Stars team as well.
Right.
So training was like 6 a.m. anyway. So there's no way I was getting on the boat from Stradbroke to get there on time at school.
Yeah.
So yeah, I it was a hard time. My mum and my family and my little brothers and all my cousins were on the island still, but I was over on the mainland just fulfilling this scholarship in this high school life.
Right.
So
right.
yeah, it was a really interesting childhood growing up. But yeah, you like looking at where I am now with the art, like you wouldn't have a clue like how deep sport was in my life for so long.
Okay.
And it was actually quite a monumental change of my family's life and everyone around me's life once I made the decision to go to art. So yeah.
But did that period of kind of needing to stay with families, working towards getting scholarships, that sort of spirit of competitiveness, did that kind of seed the spirit of hustle in you?
For sure. Like, I definitely have learnt to push through a lot of things. And but I've also been pushed to the limits on a lot of my, like, whether it be physically, emotionally, mentally, even safety-wise. Like, when I was in grade 8, I tell this story to so many people and they trip out. But, like, I stayed with a family in grade 8 and it was reasonably close to home, but they just had no idea about any Aboriginal culture at all. And
Right.
there was one time that a rugby team had come from the United Kingdom to come and play our team, and we got this kid who was to come and billet with us for like 2 or 3 days.
Uh-huh.
We got the only black kid on the team, and he comes home, and the lady who I'm staying with is so excited that she's got this black guy from the UK coming to stay at her house, and she's got an Aboriginal kid in her house, and then she brings out her old money box, and it's like a black gollywog type of deal, and she's like, this is my nigger box. This is in grade 8. This is in grade 8, and this is from this is a family that was given to me by the school.
Yeah.
And
so that's like age 13, 14?
yeah, I was like 12, 13.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there was that, and like
Proudly display like that level of
here's
ignorance.
my nigger box. Have a look at this. I used to put money in it when I was a kid, and I still got the coins in it. And like, it was real. It was real. And me and this dude just kind of looked at each other like we didn't even know each other. We were just looking at each other. What the hell is going on here? And but I told the school. I told people that was necessary to tell, and it was this thing of, oh, they don't mean it like that. It's, this isn't it. And I was like, so you had to kind of, me especially, I had to see beyond things. And, I was living with this family.
Yeah.
So I'd go home to them. It was something that I had to face every day. And then other things, like I experienced a lot of racism, like real deep stuff that no person should experience in this day and age, at least. Like, it was never anything physical,
Yeah.
luckily, but, being a young kid, having threats from older men. It was a real big difference being with my family at home and then being out in the so-called real world. And all that stuff that I experienced, I definitely just learned to hustle through it all. And like, especially when you got scouts who are watching you and in the AFL and they're coming and talking to you at games and stuff, like regardless of what you're going through, you have to show results.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter. You have to kick 4 or 5 goals. You have to get this many tackles. You have to get this many disposals. You have to shoot this much from the field in basketball.
Right.
It doesn't matter what happened at home. So, yeah, I learned to produce results regardless of what was going on. And I guess when you look at what's happening now in my life, a lot of stuff goes on and people keep asking, how do you do this? How do you do that? It's like, I've been doing this since I should have been still on my mama's breast. You know what I mean? Like, I've been doing this since before I had hair on my chest, before I could grow a beard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, it's been a long time. Yeah.
You've like grown up with this layer of armor. You've sort of had to develop these coping mechanisms as you grow.
Yeah.
Embedded in you. Did you have much of that modeled from family members when you were growing up, or did you have to learn that you just needed to do that? What was it?
I definitely had the influence from my family. My dad, my father, he grew up in the hood, grew up in Tampa, Florida. I grew up on one big story of him getting shot by his stepdad in his house.
What?
And he's like, he was the star player of the high school basketball team. This is when he was like 15, 16, around that age. My grandma, bless her, she's passed on now. She was like, man, her story is crazy. She grew up in the crack era, was addicted at one point, found Jesus, found God, moved through that, and like a rebirth almost, and like, using all of what had happened in her life to become this beautiful, strong black woman who raised strong black kids, who then raised strong black kids. And I'm about to have a child. I'm about to raise a strong black kid as well. So I've had these influences my whole life. My stepfather, my dad, he is my dad. He grew me up since I was a young boy, taught me right from wrong, taught me how to kick a footy, taught me what respect is, what it meant to be there for your family. He taught me all that stuff. He was a professional AFL player, and I wasn't around for the start of his career, but I was there for the end when he was playing for Port Adelaide. And I've still never spoken to him about it. But one thing that was always very clear to me and that I knew was that he obviously had the injuries that you have to deal with, and he was a star player. He was, you say his name in any AFL conversation and people will drop what they're doing to talk about what they remember about Shea Cockatoo Collins. And obviously the injuries, but then he left Essendon in 99. Essendon won the premiership in 2000. He had a career-ending injury in 2003, and the team that he was playing for, Port Adelaide, won the grand final in 2004. And the season-ending injury was enough. Like, I saw him at home. I still remember him. I was like 4 or 5 years old with the cast on his arm, and he had to have a shower with the cast on. He couldn't raise it and couldn't really drive properly. But he pushed through, and he was still a dad to us. He was still there with us. He would still take us to the park, still do what he needed to do, and show those results. I could keep on going on. My mum is one of the most powerful people I've ever met, the most powerful woman I've ever met. And you look at her story, and it's just, it is a come up story. It's pushing through some of the hardest times of what we can face here in Australia, especially as a black woman. And now she is the go-to Indigenous artist for textiles and design, and now in architecture, and she designed the Commonwealth Game medals.
Wow.
She's just done a merchandise line with Venus Williams.
Whoa.
So all around me has been examples of moving through struggle to get to the other side. And, you know, I will say that there's a lot of privilege here in Australia that we live. Like, I'm not talking about the struggle, like we having bombs dropped in our houses, and I'm not talking about the struggle where we're sharing a loaf of bread for a week. I'm talking about a struggle that a lot of people here can resonate with, especially the story of being a black family, trying to, you know, pass on good things, not just morals and not just wisdom, but nowadays, you know, how do we pass on a legacy? How do we pass on wealth? And that's what I see my family doing now, and that's all I'm following. Yeah.
When we say the word intergenerational, particularly in recent times, it's often followed by the word trauma.
Trauma.
You've touched on a couple of times just now the having the upbringing of strong black kids modeled for you, and then now you're at a point of life where you're about to be starting a family as well. How important is that to keep modeling and keep working on that part of intergenerational growth, would you say?
I think it's so important. I think that for me, I've had to accept it. I've had to accept that, especially in my field of music, hip hop, and what I grew up understanding, people want to talk about the traumas that they've been passed down and how great they can carry their traumas, which is good on you. And I pray that you find some peace within your traumas, but I had to accept that my family have made a continual effort to raise strong black family, and it is a responsibility of mine. Even recently, in the past 6 months, me and my partner and my mum sat down, and like, I won't divulge the whole conversation, but pretty much mum telling us, like, you guys are making a big decision. Obviously so supportive, mum's so excited, but saying you guys have made a big decision, and this is your responsibility now. You got to raise a strong black kid. You got to be there for this kid. You got to be together for this kid. And so there's that accountability. My mum is coming into the conversations in my relationship. And in society nowadays, that doesn't really happen. But you look in history, and it's always been an exchange of families. It's always been a intermarriage of families. I think that in terms of the importance of intergenerational growth, it should be something that is paramount, I believe. Because you think about our purpose as humans, it's always been to evolve. That's how we got here. And I see my mum as talking to me like that as her helping me evolve. And so definitely living out her purpose as a mother, and me trying to fulfill that responsibility as her son. Yeah.
What kind of evolving world do you hope to be raising your child in?
Another big thing my parents taught me was you can't change the world unless you change your household. And I've these are all things I'm learning still. Every day I question these things and I think in bed and ponder what it all actually means. But just literally showing my child what it means to be loved and supported. And I never listened to my parents. I saw what they did.
Yes. Yeah.
I saw how they acted. And so I'm trying my hardest. It's not even trying. It's like I love my partner so much. So I try to allow myself to show that in as many ways as possible now. And I'm still learning. I'm still discovering these parts of myself. But if I can raise a child who isn't inhibited by fears in their endeavor to show love or respect or care to someone, then I feel like I've done my job, because my journey has been getting through the fears to the other side of expression. If I can raise a child who feels freely in their expression, then I feel like I've done that job. But I'm sitting here 2 months out from the pregnancy and I've got nothing, no experience raising kids.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of trials and tribulations on the way, but I look at what my mum's done and what my parents have done for me, and I believe that I've got the right tools to raise a family that I feel like is in that space of evolution. Yeah.
I think I was perhaps anticipating a more macro answer when we talk about the world, but I think true to the spirit of what your folks have been teaching you about, if you want to change the world, you got to change your household. I think you went quite micro there with your answer, which
for sure.
Really resonant.
Even in terms of like a macro level, like I've been diving so deep into some stuff recently, and I'm just like, look, if we can find out what's in the Vatican, if we can find out what is in those chambers that's locked away from humanity, then we're talking about evolution. Talking about lost technologies. That's the type of what I want my kid to grow up in an era where he sees the doors of the Vatican open up. That's what I want. It's very specific, but it's that macro level you're looking for.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
God, if we can just keep people like Pell out of there as well.
Man.
Just like,
The hell with Pell.
yeah. So you've talked about a childhood very focused on sports, kind of being almost like a touring athlete already as a kid, like being moved around to different houses and dealing with racism in your adopted home, the billets there, and then still needing to show up and perform. At what stage did this legacy of sports start to shift in a more musical direction and to the arts?
It was when I was 15, 16.
Yeah.
Very minor. It wasn't anything serious. It was just me writing stuff down. And then me and my friends, we all rapped.
Right.
And so we just created a group and we went to the school classrooms and would film videos of us rapping and remixing tracks. And, we called ourselves 47. And we're still homies to this day. And all my shows, you still see my homies jumping up, the same crew from high school, still jumping up on stage with me.
Right.
Even on my EPs, still to this day. So, yeah, like it's just being able to. I keep forgetting these questions for some reason. I don't usually forget questions.
That's right. Yeah. So I'm interested in, like you said, in your, I guess around age 11, 12.
Yeah.
Prior to being 15, 16, you seem very sport focused and following the dad's legacy.
That's right. Yeah.
And at which stage did it move into artistry and music?
Yeah, because I see what my brain does is it thinks of the point that I want to get to first, and then I like backtrack and I'm like, how do I get to this point? the end point that I should bring up first is smoking weed. That's the end point, right? So I was now backtracking.
It seems more classically associated with artistic pursuits.
For sure.
More so than sport. Like some would be the exception, but yeah.
Yeah. Like, I wish I was one of those savant kids who just grew up doing music and that was it. But
yeah,
I was balling, I was hooping. And then me and my homies made a rap group. And then we started smoking all together. Everyone seems to think it was me that
brought it into
the group. Man, I didn't have any plugs. I didn't know what was going on. We all bought our first 50 bag together. That's all I know. And it just, like, I feel like it sounds very cliche, but once I started smoking, I started asking questions. And once I started asking questions, it became really apparent to me that I was not following a dream of mine. I was doing what I've always done and doing what was expected of me in multiple spaces, you know, with my family, with school, with the teams I was a part of. And I guess, like, when you're representing really high rep teams and, you know, scouts are coming up to you from a young age, like, people just assume that's the direction that you're going to go. Like, even grade 8,
and just to clarify, we're not talking about the outdoor adventure scouts, we're talking about scouts for football teams.
Scouts for football teams. Yeah. So we're talking about, like, people who bring you onto those teams and put you through the draft. But yeah, it was really just a time where I started questioning what it is that I wanted, and I didn't know what I wanted, and so I just decided to start writing what I wanted, and a lot of that came out in rhyme form. And I would have dreams, and I'd start seeing parts of the future where I was not on a field or on a court, but I was in front of people, and I've always been great at speaking. I've always been able to articulate myself, and so that just came. I've never really tried to do this up until this year, really, end of last year.
Right.
It's all been this kind of one fluid journey of going from being in the sport and then trying to figure out what it is, and then things just once I started to get into this music space and poetry space, everything just started going and flowing, and won awards and won more awards, and went on tour with Fundamentals, and I was like 17, 18, like randomly. Like, I can't even remember how it happened. All I know, it was because of Adrian Eagle and Be Wise.
Okay.
So my life just took me in this completely different direction, and that was, you know, I really didn't sit back and have a look at that until last year. That none of what I've done I've actually tried to do. It's been, I guess, this thing of me just putting things out there and me receiving the same energy back. But I'm definitely now in a space where it's like, this is what I'm doing, and I'm going to go for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Whilst we still have this sport thread remaining, I'm not that plugged into the AFL side of things, but I have heard murmurs of the cultural appropriation element of it, was that it was a colonial kind of copycat of indigenous practice.
Mangrook. Yeah, the Mangrook.
Can you tell me? I don't know anything about this. Can you tell me?
Yeah, well, Blackfellas started footy. Blackfellas started AFL.
Yeah.
A game called Mangrook. Can't remember the origins. I think it was between WA and NT. But yeah, it was just like a take on blackfellas sport, and that's why blackfellas play it the best.
Yeah.
We've been playing this for longest time. So, but yeah, like on the sports thread as well, and talking about that same kind of
Yeah.
cultural ignorance that they have. The biggest incident that I had, the biggest racial incident that I had, was actually on a footy field with an official. It was one of the dads of the team that was playing against. And I had scored 7 goals in the first half. It's like unheard of.
Right.
And this is going into the finals. So we're about to knock Sherwood. I'm going to drop their name.
They took a beating.
What? For real. We're about to knock Sherwood out. This is like, mind you, this is like under 16s.
Right.
So we're still kids.
Yeah.
Or maybe 17s, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then as we're running back on the field, the referees, they have to run to the corner of the box to start the game, the quarter, whatever. He ran by me intentionally, like took a detour to talk yarn to me and then cruise. Passing me, he said, "I'm gonna get you, you fucking dirty nigga." And I was in shock.
Yeah.
And then I just started crying, and no one, like the referee started the game, the ball went over to I was playing centre half forward, the ball went into the forward line, it was getting kicked out, and I saw his son, and I just lined his son up and flogged him, just like broke his ribs, fully decked him, and then I just started going off, and people started coming to me, I started throwing punches, and I ended up going to the tribunal for obviously what I did.
Yeah.
Rightfully so. I got suspended for 2 weeks. So did the referee. Only suspended for 2 weeks. This is a grown man coming up to me trying to intimidate me on a football field, an under-16s football match, coming up and calling me a dirty nigger, telling me that he's going to get me.
This is the referee
This is a referee.
of the game that you were playing at the time.
He only gets two weeks. My family said, nah, not good enough. We take it to the head of the AFL and get the whole board sacked. You can see this. It's on Google.
Yeah.
You look it up. It's a whole thing. It was on the Daily News. It went crazy. So, AFL, we still see it nowadays. People in the crowd, we just had a Crows player 2 years ago say some really racist stuff on a field to a player. And, it's less to do with the sport and more to do with where we are. The people that are here. It's like, it only comes out in places like that because that's where Australians love to be. Anywhere Australians love to be, guarantee you're going to hear a couple of those words come out. 100%.
Yeah.
In my experience, at least. So, yeah, it's kind of like take our game and then, but some of the greats have great AFL players have been white Australian fighters. You have Wayne Carey. I could list a million people. My favourite one's Wayne Carey. Biggest handball in the game.
Right.
But it's also a space that's been heavily worked on. I've got uncles who work in the AFL and have worked in that space, dedicated their entire work life to creating equal space for blackfellas in sport and blackfellas in footy in particular. They've done a lot of good work, and it's still happening to this day. And you're seeing now kids from community who rarely would get a chance to play AFL footy now come through and be picked up in these drafts. And my little brother's playing AFL in Adelaide at the moment, hoping to get a shot in the draft this year. So I'm glad that he's going into a space that has been heavily worked on by family members of ours and people who care about the sport, and people who care about our culture, and people who care about this country. Yeah.
Yeah. So that moment when you get slammed with a racist slur like that, like I've had that word leveled at me and felt some of the things that you're talking, and I rationally understand that it's not even relevant to me, and it's coming from such a place of ignorance that it's like a misplaced slur, but still there's something about the power exchange of that moment. And for you, you've just sort of illustrated like shock, sadness, anger, violence, all coming in at that moment. Like, what are those moments like when you have something like that dumped on you? Like,
Yeah. That one was like just that was sadness and anger straight away.
yeah,
Because I knew what he was trying to do. And I tried my hardest to not let it affect me for like 5 seconds. And then I just lost it because I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle the fact that he made me feel away.
yeah,
Like it's not the fact that he said it to me. I started crying because I let him get to me. And then I don't know, this is just going to be a friggin' vent session of racism that's happened to me. But like I've moved through all this stuff, and these are a lot of what my art speaks about is, you know, asking these questions about self and how you can understand emotions to move through these things. But I got called the N-word 3 times by my teacher in class, and I grabbed him and threw him against the teacher's desk.
yeah,
And I got suspended, and then the principal of the school came up to me and said, well, if it means anything to you, I believe your story. But he says that he didn't say it, so we can't do anything. Oof. But I ended up getting suspended because they got me on camera grabbing this teacher and throwing him.
right.
But then they don't have audio of this guy. Like, as if I'm just going to grab a teacher and, you know what I mean? But when he said it to me, he said, I know you with your N friends doing your N thing. I know you with your, listen to your N beats. Because we'll listen to music outside the class. The first time he said it, I was a little bit confused. I was like, wait, you said it? The second
3
time.
times, quick succession.
Yeah, quick step, bang, bang, bang. Second time he said it, I was like, hold up, wait a
weaponized.
minute. And then the third time it was like, bang, like just physical. Like, couldn't control it.
Yeah.
So, like, it's a mixed emotion when you go through those things, especially when you're young. And like, if anyone even just like says something remotely bad about other teenagers, like, oh, he's got pimples on his face. It's like, that hurts. So imagine a teacher saying that stuff to you, knowing that your family been called that for the past 500 years.
Yes.
You got family who's been on the plantation. I know the name of my family who was on the plantation getting called that. So it's like, it's a little bit, there's a lot of mixed emotions, but I'm glad I went through them. I'm glad I got to see that part of society because now I know.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be able to articulate my emotions, and I wouldn't be able to understand half of my emotions if it wasn't for those really crucial moments where I got pushed to the edge of my emotions and pushed to the edge of my mental capacity.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just like one of those things I had to go through and do as much as I can now to represent my mob so that people used to seeing us around and people start to question whether or not they should say things.
And in both of those instances, you could look at it through like a 2023 fairly white conservative kind of lens and go like, oh, you were violent back to them. But then zoom out a bit more in that historical context, 5 centuries, I think you were mentioning there. The word and the privilege and the audacity of that is so violent. It's like to know that history and to use that word 3 times in a privileged position
With
of being
no-
a referee and a teacher.
Yeah.
Like, there's serious levels of violence just...
It's violent, and I do not care what anybody says to me about being violent. I will, if someone says something to me, how I deal with it and how I've dealt with things has been physical. Other people, it's not like that. I've been lucky to not have to get in trouble, like with the law or anything, and I've done a lot of work on myself to be able to like not be angry at certain situations and not blow up. But like that teacher got what he deserved. He actually deserved a lot worse. And I had cousins who were ready to come on that boat and cause trouble in one of the most privileged private schools in Queensland. You know, but you know, it's that's just how it is. And people have to understand that being physical has always been a part of our society. We are physical by nature. There is a reason why when I punch you, it's gonna hurt. It's because that's how nature is. Doesn't mean that it's right, but it's how things are sometimes. And I'm glad I'm in a place now where I've got the space and the knowledge and the know-how and the support to put all of my emotions through a channeled source, and that's my music and my art. Yeah.
One last sports thread there. I haven't followed the code much, so I don't know a great deal, but thanks to some brilliant documentaries and I guess media coverage, I am aware of is it Nicky Winmar? And so that iconic moment of him lifting up his jersey, showing his skin, pointing towards it, that was in response to something, right?
That was it definitely was in response to something. I should know this because my dad Shay, he was part of the committee that helped make a lot of changes to the rules of how AFL deals with racism, and this happened around the same time with Michael Long, Gilbert, Uncle Gilly. He's on the Marngrook Footy Show now. My dad, a bunch of other black footy players at the time. Uncle Byron Pickett, Uncle Choppy. It was in response because at that time, the stories that I was in Melbourne listening to them talk to the press about these things, and they're saying like they remember getting beers poured on them as they were going into the change rooms and getting sworn at, getting pies thrown on them, and all the worst things you can think of. Imagine sitting on the sideline, like you got like a 15-degree angle to kick a goal, and you got some white dude screaming in your neck, saying this and that about you, your skin color, and I don't know exactly what that was in response to, but I can tell you that in that same time, a lot of changes were happening, and a lot of black fellas were saying no more, and that was one of the examples.
Right. And Nicky was also referenced in an Adam Goodes documentary, and I remember the whole country freaking out about an invisible spear, so to speak. Do you recall that?
That was the exact same time that mine was going on, and Adam reached out in that situation what I had, and gave some words of advice and encouragement, and it was all the exact same. It was all the exact same time that was happening, and that dance that he did, we did that at the Indigenous All Stars Boomerangs team when we were under 18s, under 17s.
Yeah.
We did that dance. Forgive me if you listen to this and I'm wrong, but I remember sitting in the hotel where we had our camp for the Indigenous Boomerangs team.
Yeah.
And we made that dance, the exact same one that he did to the crowd. And the same, like pretty much the same one that's done at the Rugby League All Stars.
Right.
It ends with the spear. I remember Big Bo Rhodes from WA. He was the man who held the spear, and at the height of the introduction of the dance, the war cry, we all dropped down and Bo stood up with a pretend spear, and then at the end of it, threw the spears at the opponents. And so this was all the same time this was happening, and when I saw that, I remember thinking, it was never that. It was never us saying we're going to kill you. Like, how's an invisible theoretical spear going to do much harm? It was a war cry no more than what the haka is.
I was going to mention that exactly. Right. Yeah. And how is one celebrated and one causes so much fear?
I don't know. Queenslanders love their rugby league, and you have people like Benji Marshall and Tuivasa Sheck, and they love them, so they're not going to say a bad word about that. Let me say that.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice. And then, so this is the time where you were moving from sports into music, and we went back into sports, and there's some very heavy, intense experiences there. But now you're at a point at your career where you're, and perhaps you didn't stop in some ways, but you're connecting with, through your music, you're connecting with some sports brands. So you've been working with both Starter and Foot Locker, is that right?
Yeah, done a bit of work with both of them. Starter's been an amazing partnership over the past few years. Got to do 2 songs with them and got to model for them in a fashion thing last year or the year before.
Yeah.
And Foot Locker, the first big brand to really give me a spotlight and support me. I'm still wearing clothes that they gave me 3 years ago.
Yeah,
so it's a good sign. Just did a gig a couple of weeks ago down in Melbourne for NBA.
Yeah.
Went to my old football club last week.
Yeah. Was that down there with Tom Thum?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Down with Tom Thum. We did a gig for the NBA and TAB, which was awesome. But yeah, and still heavily involved. As I said, my little brother is playing football down in Adelaide. I got another little brother here playing rugby league, rugby union.
Yeah.
So I'm still heavily involved with all those things. But in terms of brands, like they're pretty much the only sports related brands that I've been a part of. Yeah.
Right. There is is it Clontarf Foundation? Do you know?
Clontarf, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's Clontarf's a series of high schools across the country for AFL.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's mixed with religion,
right,
as well.
So an odd little thread there between sports and Tom Thum and myself is that I used to be a touring live looping performer, and somehow Tom and I ended up at this Clontarf rural school, Catherine area workshop.
Yeah,
That was it was lovely, but it was this like mayhem in not mayhem, but it just very like loose and kind of like to your own liking, kind of like how you're going to do
You're
this
in
workshop.
Catherine.
Yeah.
Chilling. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
And so how did the two, and it's been great to run into him around the place and just see how his career has been able to grow. I presume off the back of the TED Talk, big bump in people's awareness of what he was doing. Not that his level of competence of what he was doing changed at all. He's just been steadying the course, and then suddenly there's this kind of halo effect on what you're doing. How did the two of you connect? Because I feel like I've watched, like maybe I'm seeing his style in some of your graphics, and I've kind of watched the two of you do a few projects together over the last little while.
Yeah, I mean, first time we met was at a gig at QPAC in 2020. We just connected from the jump. It's like Tom's just been my biggest supporter for the past 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Has given me a lot of knowledge, has been there for me in times where I was like ultimate frustration with some industry stuff. And he's taken my call at all hours of the night. He's stayed at my grandparents' place. He knows my mum, and like I've found a brother in Tom, and I think he'd say the same. We've done a lot of great music together, but the memories that I have with Tom are not in the music space. The best ones that we have have always been just funny little phone calls or just jokes that we crack to each other. So I guess that's the real foundation of the work that we've done, and why you might see a lot of his flavor in my work, is specifically in the live performance stuff.
Yeah.
Because he does do the graphic stuff for me there, and he'll pop up. I'll be like, hey, I've got a rehearsal tomorrow. It's like a full tech rehearsal, and we don't have any graphics. Do you want to come by? He'd be like, yeah, cool, sweet. And then he'll just like drop in and whip up 12 pages of graffiti for my show, and he'd be like, sweet, yeah, done.
Yeah.
So, it's a pretty like he's not like an industry friend. He's my brother, and got a lot of respect for him, and you know, he's one of the most humble characters that I've ever met, and he's had such a massive impact on the hip hop culture here in Australia.
Yeah.
And yeah, I didn't know him before the TED Talk, and I actually used to watch that TED Talk in high school and used to trip out, and now I'm like sitting here making jokes about him and talking like we just run each other down sometimes, but yeah, like it's been a real fun ride with him. And you know, we had the show Spit Shine in 2021.
Yeah, I've missed a few of your big productions, but I think that's one I did catch. Was that downstairs at QPAC?
Powerhouse.
Powerhouse, rather? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
I did catch that one.
With Damien Power.
Yeah. What was the hip hop MC, beatboxer, and a comedian?
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
How did you guys come up?
It was some bullshit. To be
Okay,
honest.
I think I did a trip down from Sunny Coast to see that show, and I was not disappointed, of course, but like it was
it was fucking crazy. But it was the most revolutionary thing I have ever been a part of and ever seen.
Why is that?
Because we were at a comedy festival.
Oh, that's right. That was
a
the
Brisbane
banner.
Comedy Festival doing a hip hop band, beatboxing and comedy. Damien was on stage probably no more than 10 minutes of that 60-minute show.
Yeah.
Actually, no, we had an even spread of individual performances, but a lot of the transitions were me and Tom doing music stuff. And, it was like everyone loved it. Everyone had fun.
Yeah.
And it was one of those gigs where we wouldn't even sit backstage. We'd just finish our little set and then walk into the crowd and watch the rest of it.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So it was really that was fun, and I really want to do that again. If anyone's watching this and you want to book Spit Shine, book it.
Yeah. Did that have it like? I mean, I could potentially have like a fringe festival kind of life.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the stuff that Tom's done.
Yeah, it can definitely do that. And I think the way that set things up is we have capacity to do a lot of different shows with the same personnel. It's like pretty versatile. We've got the same band, and the band's in like 3 different headline artists, plus you got Tom Thum, plus you got Damien. Like there's like 5 acts right there.
Yeah.
Easy. So yeah, we haven't done it again since, but it's something that we've talked about, and we still talk about every time we jump on the phone. And still send each other. Like the other day it was the promo that we did for it came up on Facebook. Memories, and I sent to the boys. I was like, when are we jumping on this?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was good.
You have been you say that like it's only been in the last year, the previous year and this year where things have really kind of come together for you, but there has been a lot of momentum in this recent time, and that wasn't even one of the projects that I was going to touch on. What brings you to these kind of large, ambitious productions like that one and others?
I'm just made for it.
Yeah.
that's just how it ends up.
Yeah.
I could say, oh, let's just do this little thing, and then it's just going to end up like this big, massive production.
Yeah.
I just can't do things regular scale. Like it's got to have lights. It's got to have the most insane technical requirements. It's got to have 4 techs.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
it's just how it's ended up being. But also, I have never felt comfortable in Australia with my hip hop, especially like in Brisbane,
Mm.
it's been, well, put it this way. I'm either performing to like a more poetry crowd, more literature, because my work is in universities. Like they study my poems and stuff in universities. So I've got that crowd, and then either that or it's like the hip hop crowd. And then you look at the hip hop industry now, and it's all these like meatheads who are trying to promote violence and stabbings and this and that. I won't call them meatheads because it is a reality.
Yeah.
But the level of consciousness that is involved with that type of creation, and the level of like self-awareness that is brought through in those types of works, I just can't respect, and I don't choose to engage. But like the
Is this like some of the stuff we're seeing in the drill scenes emerging?
yeah, the drill stuff. And so when I talk about now everything that I project is just my own reflection. Sometimes I feel my overthinking is my only pressure. A lot of time, a lot of heart, a lot of love invested. But I swear this anxiety just got its own direction. It's like when I start saying that stuff, people are like, oh, this is different. And then it's like, and then it kind of loses the feel sometimes. And
Yeah.
it's like people are expecting some hype shit, and it's like it's not supposed to be hype, but you can feel the rhythm. It's got some of the most amazing production, I feel like, in the country.
Right.
And so I just make my own spaces. Like, I don't want to be uncomfortable, but I won't say no to those spaces, and I don't say no to those spaces, but I make those bigger productions so that people can make a choice whether they want to be there. And you're coming into my arena, you're coming into my space that is not from your poetry world. You can't come here and say, oh, well, he didn't pronounce this word properly, and he didn't put the comma right here. And you also can't say, oh, well, where's the drill? Or where's the hype music? So you've come here for this show, and that's what you're going to get. And I guess that, it's like a home ground. It's like you go into someone else's home ground to play a game. You go into someone else's home ground to support your team. Like I really intentionally curate those spaces, and I've had a lot of support, especially in this bigger picture production that's coming up from my producer, Nicole Riley. One big thing that she told me from the start was that the show starts out the doors. The show starts from when you get out of the car. And it really showed me, like, you can have things in the foyer, you can have things outside.
Right.
You can have things in the little side doors before you walk into the theater.
Yeah.
You can have things under the chairs. You can have the air blowing a specific temperature. Like, there's all these little elements that I love to play with. And even at my last show, the work in progress that I did at Redlands Performing Arts Centre in October last year, had like a little reel that was like a little loop of about 2 minutes that was photos and videos of the past 2 years that we've documented, 3 years that we've documented. And it kind of went from like me being a young boy with a fro and like coming out of high school, and then moving into like doing the bigger, like doing the stadium show, the Gabba, and opening up the QMA Awards.
Wait, tell me about that one.
I performed at the Gabba.
Yeah, was that the AFL?
Yeah, AFL round. Yeah.
Right.
So, just like showing the difference between the performing in front of 2 people in front of at King George Square, as opposed to performing at a 40,000 capacity stadium. And, people sitting out there getting drinks and talking and mingling and whatever else, but they're watching these screens.
Yeah.
And that's the show starting before I get on the stage.
Some of you, so they have some of your backstory absorbed.
Yeah.
Before seeing your present day.
And then I also had my cousin, Ethan Enoch.
Yeah.
Who he was one of the first people I showed my raps to.
Okay.
And he always talks about how I've inspired him to make music, and I always respond and say how he's inspired me to make music. And he was performing outside in the foyer before the show at RPAC. So it's like this, and he's not younger than me. Oh, he is younger than me, but he's not like my younger cousin or anything. He's my cousin, and like he wasn't outside the stage. He was part of the show. The show starts out there, and he set the mood. And so I love playing with those elements.
Right.
And you can't do that at like a festival. You can't do that at the zoo, or you can't do that at anywhere unless it's your show production.
Right. So some people could like zoom out and look at that as like, oh, he's just the opener off in the corner there, but first impressions matter, and like he was your specifically chosen to be some of the first impressions that people have of the show, right?
Yeah. So it was like very intentional.
Yeah.
And it might get passed off as something like that, but it'll make you feel how it makes you feel, and you can't have any control over that.
Yeah. And you carry that feeling forward to you in the show, and you kind of, maybe you take away some of that separation of like, I'm going to sit in this seat and be entertained. Boom, the performance starts. Oh, it's done. I'm going to go home now. Like, yeah, maybe you sort of flip the tables a little bit there of like, oh, I'm invested. Oh, look at this. He's got a backstory, and look, wow, two people to
and then you
gather.
walk out after the show, and you start talking to people,
right,
and taking photos with people, and giving people your time, and then it turns into this. Oh, I'm just showing my family, I'm just showing my friends what I get up to, as opposed to I'm here, I'm on this stage, I'm doing this big shit.
Yeah,
I'm not going to come out and talk to you. It becomes this. Oh, thank you so much for coming and watch me do what I've been doing for the past 6 years. I really appreciate it. There's nothing more that I love than when I go out after a show and people will say what they want, and I might feel a little bit uncomfortable about how much they love what's happened. But I love being able to say thank you for coming. Thanks for putting your money into getting a ticket. Thanks for making the trip all the way out here to come.
Yeah.
I might not even know them. I might have known them since I was a young boy.
Right.
But I have so much gratitude for everybody who has supported me on this journey, and people who continue to be invested in this journey and support me through streaming and through buying tickets or merch or whatever. That when I finally get an opportunity to be with these people, I just, it's my favorite part to just say thank you. And that might be another part of why I create these spaces, because you don't get to see all your people in one space very often. So yeah, like it's not so much a performance, it's a showing. It's a show and tell. And then we get to debrief afterwards.
So when you're creating this work, these big productions, there's a big roster, there's a lot of people on the poster, a lot of people involved. It seems like it takes a village. What does it take? Like, what's the starting point? How do you develop it?
Yeah, I think that first of all, you got to have great music. You got to have a story. You got to have a purpose. You got to know why you're doing it. My first EP, I was 17, 18 when I made it.
Yeah.
Part of the picture. Didn't finish it till I was like 19.
Right.
Chronological order. People might not know, but listen to that thing from top to bottom. There is a story that's hidden within it. Not even hidden, it's pretty obvious once you kind of get the emotions of it. And
Right.
And then my next EP, The Bigger Picture, just heavily story-based, but also part of the picture and the bigger picture actually, when you put them together back to back, it's a running story. And so that's how you make these big productions. It's the story that matters. You could have the biggest Sony production budget behind you. You might have the best orchestra in the world, and you might have the best songwriters in the world, but if you got no story, then you've got nothing. Especially in spaces like theatre, it's so heavily based on story. And theatre, I feel like, is a space where people don't want to have to. People want to digest things. They don't want to have to go home and wonder. I wonder what that was about. That's more the poetry side. Theatre, especially, is a space where you present something to someone. You present an idea. You present a statement. And I started off with my story, and that's one thing that I just carry with me. And from there, the story has been what's brought people on board. I would not be able to do all of this without the entire team. I would not have been able to do this with the people who were helping me out but are no longer helping me out. It's all been a massive job from a lot, as you said, a village. But I've just got the right contacts. Honestly, I've just got the right contacts, people who know what they're talking about and who believe in what I'm doing. And I got help with a few community grants.
Right.
I got help with some business advice. I also just do a lot of research myself. Not like looking through books and have glasses on and drinking cups of coffee until 5 a.m. in the morning, but like I'll just be on my phone looking at TikToks or Instagrams or Google or YouTube, looking up different ways to do things. I'll look up how to use the theatre control software so that I can understand what that is, and I'll then go and talk to my drummer, Nathan McGregor, who's one of the most genius musical minds on this continent. And I'll go and talk to him about the engineering side of things so that when it comes time to me talking about QLab, I can bring that engineering side of things into QLab. And you know what I mean? It's like, it's really just piecing the puzzles together. And Luka Lesson was my first mentor and the first idol that I had in this game.
Right.
And
because you were more like
poetry.
Perhaps like your partner as well, like had a stronger poetry background and then into music.
Yes.
Right.
Yep. I was doing music on the side, but my first love was poetry.
Yeah.
And I found my talent through my poetry.
Right.
And
what a mentor to have in the poetry scene.
For real.
Yeah.
What a mentor to have. And he told me when I was like 16, just do 100 things a year and you'll see what happens. And I did that.
And what would constitute a thing in that?
A performance, a poem, just 100 things that that is in your field. Whatever it might be, whether it's doing an exercise, doing a workshop with kids, whether it's this or that.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
And he told Anissa the exact same thing.
Yes.
And you look at what Anissa's doing,
Yeah.
and look what I'm doing.
Yeah.
We both followed the same advice, and both had very similar mentors.
Right.
So it must
And
work.
she's
to some
also
degree.
shifted from poetry into comedy.
Comedy.
And going off that in that direction. Yeah.
Yeah. She's really living out her purpose heavily. And
she may have like 2 or 3x'd that bit of advice because I saw the number of gigs that she wrote down for last year.
It was nuts,
Insane.
right? I couldn't do it. I couldn't do that. She's a different breed.
Yeah.
And I just I never said no to anything.
Yeah.
As well. Like anything that came my way I said yes to.
Right.
So
this is like the formative years, so kind of stuff like early on when you still had your poetry hat firmly on.
Yes. Even now it's formative. It's like I don't even see QPAG as being the biggest. Like the show's not done. The show won't be done when I get on the stage at QPAG.
Right.
The show will be developed further than what it was.
Yeah.
But like we might, like I pray that we sell it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like 1,600 seats.
Is it?
We've got 1,000 and a bit open at the moment, and once they sell, we'll open the next lot up.
Right.
But I don't see that as being I still see this as being formative. Like I want to show the world that Brisbane has the best talent in the world. Not because I feel like I'm biased and I'm from here, but because we do. I've travelled many places doing music and talking to people about different things around the arts industry, and one thing that I know for sure is that Brisbane has the best of the best in the arts industry here. We just don't get the credit for it, and so a lot of us don't believe it.
Yeah.
But we really do. And we haven't really had anyone from Brisbane take it further than Brisbane on a big level.
Yeah.
And when I say big, I don't mean like the sell your soul to the devil type big, but
Yeah.
I'm talking like someone who people can say all he did was say yes to everything in Brisbane, and look what happened. You know, whether that takes me there or whether it takes me to the Sydney Opera House or whether it takes me to wherever it might be.
Yeah.
I just want everywhere I go for people to know that where I come from, we have the best of the best, and we are the best of the best. So yeah, it's still, and I'm not doing that yet. I'm still developing everything. I'm still learning things. I'm having way more failures than I'm having successes. And I don't know if that'll change, but I hope it does.
Yeah, and this can often be the case with like underdogs in any sense, but in this sense, an underdog city. Like I've never thought about it like this, but I at one stage I was studying industrial design at University of Western Sydney, and that was the degree you could get into with lower marks, and it had lower stature than the UTS, University of Technology Sydney. And our lecturer in sustainable design, which is like the bit I was focused on and like was really enthused by her teaching. She'd come from UTS to UWS.
Wow.
And we asked her, it's like, oh, what's it like over there? Like, what's the difference? And she said, the only thing that's different is that the students get told they're better over there. Like there's just like this belief that they're better over there, but that leads to other outcomes which aren't necessarily good. So here we are in this sort of like underdog university or city, and it's actually great. What's happening here? Yeah.
I can tell you right now, people in Brisbane think about what they put out before they put it out. Other people don't. Other people don't.
Right.
And, you know, there's an integrity behind that. There's an integrity behind this music here. And, you know, that's thanks to a lot of people from the industry that was before who no longer really do music, and also the people who are currently in spaces that are helping push Brisbane music and Brisbane art.
Yeah.
There's a big accountability thing here in Brisbane, and I'm very honoured to be a part of a community of artists who I believe are like me, who think about what they say and think about what they put out and think about their message and how people are going to receive it. And before they do anything, they're like, what can I give? That's the question. It's like, what can I give to the community?
Right.
Whereas a lot of people
down south, you got people climbing over the top of each other.
It's like, what you got for me?
Yeah.
You ain't got a bag for me? Well, I'm not doing a gig.
Right. It's entitlement.
Yes. And a lot of it's not even based out of talent. It's just based off of their friends got motion, so they think they got motion. Yeah. Yeah. So, but here there's accountability that I love. Yeah.
So this productivity, this vision and making your own connections, this has got the attention of one of the original hip hop labels in the country that's not based in this city, Elefant Traks, down in Sydney. Tell me about those recent developments.
Elefant Traks, shout out. I mean, it was a very quick process, but also it was very intensive.
Yes.
A lot of calls, a lot of emails, a lot of sorting things out.
Yeah.
But pretty much I had a show where I opened up for Fundamentals at the start of the year.
Yes.
And Horror Show was the fill-in for Tuck from Fundamentals.
Ah, true. Yeah, yeah, because he dropped out of touring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I got to meet Horror Show, and Horror Show's DJ at the time was Jannah from Elefant Traks. She's A&R there, and
All right.
we got to talk, and she really believes in me and believes in what I've got going on and my vision, and proposed to Elefant Traks that there's a possibility that it'll be a good fit. And they had a lot of meetings and talks, and as you do before you invest in things.
Yeah, I imagine
on that
it's a
scale.
strange kind of courtship process of like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, we're interested in him, but we want to make sure that he can do the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, it is definitely a little bit like the conversation can leave you feeling a couple different ways, but Elefant Traks just made it so easy, and they were so transparent and honest about everything from the start.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, and I think that when I went and signed the contract in Sydney, I was talking to them all, and Dale, he was sitting there, and I was talking to him. And after I told him this, I just saw his face just light up. I told him that I've been emailing Elefant Traks my demos since I was like 18, 17. So I've been looking for this.
So how many years is that?
It's like 5 years, 6 years.
Yeah.
I was sending music to them to be like, hey, look at my music, sign me.
Right.
Like that Elefant Traks was the only label I knew about, hip-hop label I knew about in Australia.
Right.
Like, since I was a kid, because Jimblah from Adelaide.
Yes.
Jimblah used to do little community workshops with Aboriginal kids from schools around Adelaide. And so I knew about Elefant Traks since I was like 5. And
Since you were 5.
since I was like 5,
What?
like young lad. Yeah, proper. And like I met Tom Thum when I was like 5 as well.
All right.
With Jimblah there's a festival called the Deadly Vibe Festival. It was down in Port Augusta, and Tom Thum did this beatboxing workshop, and
Right.
Jimblah did a rapping workshop.
Yeah.
And I remember going home and going in the shower and beatboxing with the acoustics in the shower. So yeah, it's like this real full circle coming back around things since I was a kid. And it's such a great fit because everybody who is there is also like me. They think about what they're putting out.
Yeah.
They think about their message, what they're saying. And I feel like everything that they do comes from that place of what can I give? How can I serve?
Yeah.
They're very community-based. They're a very tight-knit family themselves. I'm saying they, as we.
Yeah.
As we.
Yeah. You're in the fold now.
I'm going to have to get used to that.
Yeah.
But
Pinch yourself moment kind
for
of
real,
thing.
yeah. So yeah, we're all very close, and you know, Caleb, the only other Brisbane artist who's on the labels from here, and we've already done songs together, and he's
Prior to you signing.
yeah,
Oh, right.
prior to us signing, we did stuff with Starter together,
Yeah. Okay.
and he is for me like my most respected lyricist in Brisbane, if not one in the country, and he's still quite young. He's like 21, I think. And we're on the same label together. So it's just the right fit, and it really works, and I'm super honored to be a part of such an amazing crew.
Yeah, what a crew. And I want to finish up with your latest release is My City. And that for me is the first time that I've seen No.One Network and Elefant Traks collab. Is that the first time that these two have come together?
Yeah, from my understanding,
Yeah.
like I mean, No.One Network has been, and Kyle in particular from No.One has been a driving force behind a lot of my behind a lot of my drive
Yeah.
for the past year and a bit.
Yeah.
And No.One Network have directed my next music video, My City, which is coming out pretty soon.
Yeah.
And Elefant Traks. And yeah, I mean, like, we've got a group chat with Elefant Traks and No.One Network on text message and sending stuff every day. And it's just like this. I barely reply. I probably should, but I barely reply. But
But you've made the connection.
Yeah, I made the connection, and they kind of talk about the project and how it's moving and what the progress is. And it's just so good to see like such a level of like love and support and professionalism with it all. And I'm just like so grateful. But the thing is, man, I'd be connecting people. Like, I am a plug. I swear to God.
Yeah.
Like, Itch Pig, shout out to Itch Pig down in Melbourne. I didn't really know them beforehand, but Kyle had put me in contact with one of the brother boys, and
Right.
I reached out to them and said, hey, I'm in town. They said, come through the workshop. They gave me like so much free clothes. So much free clothes. I had to get another backpack to bring back to Brisbane. And I was working in a studio down there on 3 Studios or 1 Studios. Dean Brady from Brisbane just recorded his first debut single there. I was doing sessions with JK47 and a few of the other boys. Jerome Farah was there as well. And the Itch Pig boys asked if they could come just take some photos for their press at the studio. Brought them together, and now they've like the Itch Pig and On 3 Studios have now like come together and made like a bunch of these community events that is happening down in Naarm, like quite regularly, and they look like the most dope events. They've even got Saintside involved with some stuff as well. So
Right.
like I've definitely worked very hard with my relationships, and I don't put people in contact with other people unless I believe that there is. It doesn't have to be a benefit, as long as I believe that they're both good people and have that same kind of intention as what I do. Then I'll make those connections.
Right. Right.
So it's less to do about me actually being the glue that puts things together, and more to do with the fact that we are finding more and more people who are bosses at what they do, who are coming from this perspective of art and community and culture, that they're more concerned about how they're being received and what they're giving to the world as opposed to what they're getting back.
Right. Yes.
No.One Network, I have not seen a community organization work in such a way where they give so much free work, content,
Like mentoring. Is that like,
merchandise.
Yeah.
They are so generous in how much they give to the community. Time. Kyle, you stop Kyle on the street, he will talk to you and give you like a whole PR package before you leave him.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Jannah, from Elefant Traks, all the people at Elefant Traks, if you ask them a question, they're going to sit with you and talk to you about it.
Yeah. I was really enthused to hear that you had a relatively old school A&R experience of like boots on the ground, because often they're like, I would think of it like, you know, be sitting in a back room looking at Spotify stats these days. But that's really great to hear that a label like Elefant Traks, they've got people that are actually out there touring, seeing what's happening in the live sphere.
Yeah, on the ground. And it's all people who are alike, and all people who I am glad that I've been able to be a part of some type of connection between them, and can't wait to see what more work comes from these beautiful partnerships. Yeah.
Wow. Sachém, I'm hopeful that I can change my flight and make it to the Bigger Picture production. But thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you. Yeah, hopefully you can too. But it's been a pleasure.